Now, you must have heard about the Project Tiger system, Project Tiger activity plan in our country. It is said that, and it is a fact that if a tiger survives, or if not only one tiger, if a few tigers survive in a particular forest or particular area, then the wildlife around it, wildlife means both flora and fauna, the vegetation, plants, trees, etc., as well as the animals, it will also grow accordingly. So the entire ecosystem will grow properly. And that is why the government of India a long time back has started this innovative project, the Project Tiger Conservation in different places. So they have selected many places in the entire country. In Assam also there are 3 or 4 such projects, which were supposed to have been natural habitats for tigers, and a lot of efforts are being put up on rearing tigers in those areas. Now, if a tiger has to survive, how will he survive? What are the requirements, or what are the environmental issues the animals need? Kind of accommodation, is food, how will it be available, how long people should be living in what area, what distance from that area, etc. All these things will also matter. That is background research. Okay. Now, once I visited a very prominent national park nearby Guwahati, a long time back when I was a journalist. Then the head of that forest, head of that park, we had a discussion with him. He told us something very important. Because of ignorance at one point of time, many of the authorities as well as many of the experts have felt that that park is, by the way, that park is very famous for rhinos, one-horned rhinos, both one-horned rhinos and plain rhinos. Now, that national park has a lot of people within a very close perimeter of the national park, and that was creating some problem for the wildlife. Then the authorities and some experts have suggested that let us allow deer, a lot of deer for in that area, so that grass will grow and rhinos will have a nice way of living. Because rhinos always have the grass is the primary food of the rhinos. They live on grass. But when the deer was introduced, it was found that the deer population has grown too big, and within a very short span of time, the deer population have eaten away all the grass which were growing. And this has left hardly anything for the rhinos. And as you know, rhinos are big bodied animals. They need a lot of fodder every day. So ultimately, the deer population had to be evacuated from that area, and the rhinos were allowed to stay alone. Alone means other animals were there, but the rhinos had a priority over the grass which was available in that park. Now, that was also a background research. Otherwise, how would you know that what kind of accommodation or what kind of food the rhinos would have and how will they survive? So ultimately, background research is important everywhere. Even for academic studies, it is very much important to know how much work has been done earlier, and we always make our base based on historical and evolutionary data from evolution. And that is why it is very important even for mass media, so that our stories become convincing and authentic for the people. Well, we have discussed quite a few things about background research, but let me give you some specific examples so that the issue may become clearer to you more than anything else. I have spoken about demand of new states within the country by some communities many a times. Now, you must have heard about the states reorganization issue earlier in the 1950s and 60s, just after the country became independent. Okay. Now, do you know that earlier the Gujarat state had both Gujarat and Maharashtra under it in a single piece? Then there was this central provinces which consisted of Madhya Pradesh and the present states, other present states. And then Delhi, Himachal, Haryana, Delhi, etc. They also included Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, etc. within it. Then UP, then that was around the 1950s. But later on, in the 1990s, and later on, Madhya Pradesh was bifurcated, UP was, Uttar Pradesh was bifurcated, etc. And in fact, Assam, where I do belong to, and this university is situated, till 1962 or 72, it was all the 7 states of the Northeastern Council were together. Let me make a clarification here. Presently, Northeastern Council has 8 states: Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, then Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. But Sikkim was included in the Northeastern Council about 15-20 years back. But earlier, all these other 7 states except Sikkim were together called as Assam. Okay. Now, so if I have to write a story, or if I have to do a feature program about whether we should have more states than it is at present. Today I think we have 29 states and 7 or 9 union territories. I'm not exactly sure about the figure, but it will be around like that. Now, should we have one country with no states, or should we have more states than at present, or if the present states should be more consolidated and fewer states than 29 states should be made? To make up that argument, you will have to look at the dynamics of reorganization of states based on population, language, etc., all these issues, and how the reorganization of states have come up over the years. Then, if we have to make a story about the fusion of music, mixing up of many different kinds or genre of anything, not necessarily in music, then we'll have to know what is folk music, what is bluegrass, what is country music, what is Indian classical or Western classical, etc. All these things. To know them, you will have to look for contents which will explain it to you, where they belong to, why they were on what particular occasions they were actually performed, etc., etc. Then, suppose we have to do a feature or a program on freedom of press, freedom of the press, freedom of expression and freedom of press in the country. Then we will have to start with the British times, because at that point of time, all the laws which were press laws, they were basically aimed at suppressing freedom of the press, so that no press or no newspaper or magazine would be allowed to, should be saying something which would go against the British government. But after independence, are we keeping the same press laws or acts as they were? Or if there was any change, there were any changes made, how much of the changes have been there? Then you will be surprised. There is an Official Secrets Act 1923, which was done, which was established enacted by the British, so that official issues or official decisions would not be divulged to the public through media. Because that time it was a colonial government, they were interested in only suppressing the people as well as exploiting financially and otherwise. Now, if we have to if we are having such an act still in implementation, which is very much functioning, how much leverage should be given to the media to ask questions about what are the policies or what are the decisions made by the government to be known, to be disseminated to the public. Then you will have to find out, you will have to read the context of the acts and what were the implications of it, and if there was any incident in which people or media organizations were fined, penalized, etc. for not towing the line of the government. This is background research. Many times, another very big advantage of background research is that while looking at different issues, sometimes you might stumble upon some new information or facts and figures which will give you a much better or completely new angle to something else. I would like to give you an example, another very prominent example. There was just after New York Twin Towers blast in 2011, Michael Moore, there was a film director in the USA. He has produced the documentary film called Fahrenheit 9/11. Actually, the name is somewhat longer, but I do remember only this name. So I have seen the documentary, and as you know, the USA has a very high standard of allowing freedom of expression to their people. There, the film was talking about George Bush, the senior, who was president, and in the Second World War, George Bush was also a naval pilot in the US Navy. And in context of the story, it was also shown that, that George Bush was penalized for some problem in his duties as a naval fighter pilot. And those records are also there in the archives of CBI or some other such organization. And the director has taken pains to find out patiently all those records, and they were shown to the public openly. Right? And then again, George Bush at that point of time also had a deal with Osama bin Laden's oil company. George Bush belongs to a very rich family which had oil business, and as you know, Osama bin Laden also had oil business for a long time, and he was probably using the funds for the secessionist activities. Those things were shown, and those things can come up only with background research. And I would suggest that you should see that documentary to find out and to understand yourself, to realize how background research was taken seriously by the director of that movie, and which he has used in a very proper way for showing to the public what should be shown, and for preparing a very authentic and proper document for the public. Now we'd like to conclude here. You have learned about why this is important. Why? Because of probably not being serious in showing proper documents or proper artifacts, as well as authentic things in films, news items, features, documentaries, etc. Many a times problems do come up and controversies keep coming. Of course, some of the controversies are also created by people. Quite a few of the historical films, especially, you must have seen this thing coming. Now, not only in journalism, all mass media forms, films, books, documentaries, everything needs proper background research. If the person is serious to make an authentic program or media content, then he or she would definitely give a lot of importance on research. Cross-checking and developing stories. If several cases which may not have any link apparently with each other are coming up, then your sixth sense, there is nothing called as a sixth sense also, but it's a way of saying your sixth sense should be alerted, and you should start looking for any common ground among such developments. That is also a kind of background research. Then long forgotten issues which might have been in hibernation, if somebody rakes them up, if somebody makes them up again, then you should go to the historical facts and archives to find out what it is actually. And then public memory is stored. So it is your duty, the media person's duty, to give a right reference to the context about any story or media content which one is preparing or producing. Then I have given you some examples to illustrate how media background research is important. States reorganization, development of the constitution, how the Government of India Act 1935, I think, was having some amount of autonomy as well as sharing of responsibilities between the states and the government over there, and how other acts and freedom movements, various movements have contributed to the development of the constitution as well as the center-state relations, finance commission, etc. And one major advantage of background research is that many a times you might come into contact with some unexplored or unknown facts which would throw new lights in the historical development or evolution of something to the current status. Okay, so background research is very important for any media production, not necessarily mass media, for cutting across all the media in mass media as well as communication activities. Okay, so whenever you would like to write something or whenever you would like to prepare an audiovisual program, never take background research lightly and do give adequate importance to this aspect so that your story or your content or media production becomes very authentic and convincing for the people. Thank you very much.